Hello plant pals and welcome to Martin's Home and Garden's Houseplant of the Week. This week we are talking about a plant that is pretty rare. We also had a change of scenery because it's a little too large to move to my booth. So what we're talking about today is this Philodendron Gigantium. You can kind of tell why it is called a gigantium. It is ginormous, gigantic even. It's huge. Now in your home they will still get very big like this, but they won't get as big as quickly because they don't have the exact temperatures and stuff that it likes. So to kind of break that down, it is in the family Araceae, which is one of the largest plant families. And then not only that, but it's native to the Caribbean islands. So what we know about that is that we kind of need to mimic those conditions in our home. So with it being native to the Caribbean islands, you know that you need to simulate a tropical habitat. So with that, you're going to want to keep it really warm in your home between 85 to 50 degrees, never really below 50 degrees. So if you're going to be somewhere where you are going to keep it outside for a period of time, you're going to want to make sure that you bring it in if it does ever dip below that temperature. Even if it is exactly at 55 degrees, you might even see some plant stress. So just making sure that you're watching for that is pretty important. As far as lighting goes, they're going to want bright indirect light. It always has to be filtered light because in their natural habitat, they grow alongside of trees and they always want filtered light. They're an understory plant, so just making sure that you provide filtered light that's still bright in your home, like right next to a window, is pretty crucial as well. As for soil, you're going to want to make sure that you have a very light and airy and rich soil. So you can amend with peat moss, orchid bark, coconut husks, stuff like that to really aerate the soil. And if it already has all the really yummy organic matter in there, that's good as well. For these plants, the roots like to wrap around things, so you can use like orchid bark in the soil for the roots to wrap around, or even like chunks of brick and stuff like that, just to make it really porous and for the roots to wrap around those to just kind of create more air in the soil. They don't mind being root bound in whatever pot they're in, so you don't have to repot very often, especially if it's something that's really large like this. You'd only have to repot every 2 to 3 years. If you're starting from a younger plant, you will have to repot more frequently. We recommend doing that in the spring, never really in the summer, and if you have to, in the fall is fine. Other than that, these plants so most of the time when you get a plant from a nursery, they're going to tell you to allow the houseplant to dry out in between waterings. While this is true most of the time, these plants, as much as I've noticed, like to stay evenly moist, but not have soggy feet. So making sure that they're not sitting in water, but that they have a good amount of water in the soil is pretty important. So I would allow the top few inches of soil to dry out, but not the entire plant, to where you see the soil pulling away from the sides of the pot. You probably don't want that for these. You're going to want to keep them pretty saturated. But also keep an eye out like in the winter, like fall and winter. Make sure that you're not watering as often as you would be in the spring and summer, or you'll probably get root rot and the plant will die. And we don't want that. So whenever you do water, if you're going to fertilize, I would do it probably by like every other week. So 2 times a month probably, and just to make sure that, you know, it's getting all of the vitamins that it would get in its natural habitat, which is ideal for these plants. And it's really rich soil, and it's got all of the yummy things from decomposting plants and things like that. So just making sure that you add compost or something, fertilizer, any kind of organic matter just to help amend the soil is really important. As far as humidity goes, I would recommend to mist these plants and clean the leaves regularly. And if you do opt for using humidifiers, those are a really good thing as well to have for these plants. And then if you are going to go ahead and add in a humidifier in the winter and stuff, it's really good to add artificial lighting just so that they get that added little boost, and they'll continue growing pretty quickly in the winter. They do flower. Ours here actually recently flowered twice. Personally, from a plant scientist perspective, now, if you want to keep your flowers around, keep your flowers around, but I cut them off because This plant isn't known for its flowers. This plant's known for its foliage. So I don't want it to put all that energy into making those flowers when it's not going to reproduce. So what I do is I chop off the flower and I wait for a new leaf. And you can actually see where I chopped off the flower, and now it's sprouting a huge new leaf. I'm very excited about it. These leaves can actually get up to 5 feet long, which is kind of ridiculous. And so I'm just waiting to see how large my next leaf is going to be. This is a specimen plant at Martin, so it is no longer for sale. But we are hoping to get in some more rare type of plants like these. But if you want to come check it out, ask questions, we would love to answer anything you have to ask. And come see what we have in store, because we have a lot of fun stuff. So thank you all for checking in this week, and we will talk to you next week.